So, My Little Pony G5 is officially over. As of September 2024, it was announced that the show Tell Your Tale is not going to continue after the second season. This means that there's not going to be any more official Hasbro G5 toys, although I'm sure there'll still be some other merchandise floating around. The line is basically finished, and Hasbro has basically said so themselves. And more importantly, this has not been a successful My Little Pony generation for Hasbro. After the mainstream success of G4, another generation was always going to be a come down, but G5 only lasted 2 seasons of a show and 4 years of toys, and that's if you include 2024, which only had one release of a toy, which was the special edition Scout Kindheart. And if you compare that with a decade of G4 that had 9 seasons of a hit show and literally thousands of different toys, it has been a comparative disaster. So, in this video, we're going to discuss what went wrong in the My Little Pony universe and why it flopped so spectacularly hard, and how G6 could be better. And this is important to distinguish that I'm just looking at the toy line because I am a toy collector. I collect the My Little Pony toys, so I haven't watched the TV shows, didn't watch the movies, haven't watched anything like that. So I'm purely looking at the toys, which is obviously still a big part of My Little Pony. Um, and I should also say that Hasbro has not officially said a lot about it. But it's widely believed that a new Generation 6 is going to start in 2026, and this is going to include a whole brand reimagining. And also, a disclaimer before we begin, I'm not hating on Hasbro purely because I want to hate on Hasbro. I've been a collector of My Little Pony for over 20 years now, and I genuinely want it to be a success. I want there to be ponies that I can collect, and I want to get really into it. I would love to have another generation like G3, but where I'm older and I actually have adult money, so I can spend it on My Little Ponies, just like normal adults do. So this is all constructive criticism. This is all stuff that I would love to see Hasbro doing, and I am definitely not the only one saying it within the My Little Pony collecting community. So, without further ado, let's get on with the video. So, we're going to start with the biggest reason that I think G5, the toy line, proved to be a disaster. Where are all the characters? So, if you allow me to be nostalgic just for a second, I am a child of the 2000s. I grew up with G3. And for me, as a child, one of the most exciting things was going to the toy store, seeing what new pony friends there were. Each pony had their own name. They'd get in a little circle. They'd all say hi to each other. And there were literally hundreds to collect. There would be whole walls of different ponies. And even though there were major characters even in that line, like there were the core seven, there was like Rainbow Dash, Rarity, blah de blah, there were still so many other ponies that we could collect. And it was when about, was it 2007, 2008, they introduced the like core seven fashion friends or whatever they were called. Fashion pose something, makeup, dress up something, dress up ponies, I think maybe. But they just started introducing the same characters over and over again, and that is when I fell out of pony collecting. That is when I went to the shop and went, hang on a minute, I've already got all these ponies. And like, even if they had different accessories, why would I want the same pony over and over and over again? And if you think that was the end of G3, G5 had that problem times 1,000. G4 also had that problem. They always had the main six, and there were other releases of ponies throughout the years, but you really had to go out of your way to find them. They were quite hard to find as well, from what I remember. But it was mainly just those six that came round and round, and you did get different characters, and those were the ones that I collected. They were the only ones I collected in G4. But G5 is like ridiculous for that. You just get the same characters over and over and over again, and even not only are they the same characters, they also look exactly the same. Like, even for all its faults, G4, you at least had, like, you'd have a Twilight, and then you'd have a Twilight with a glittery cutie mark, and then you'd have a Twilight with glittery mane and tail, and then you'd have a Twilight, but oh look, she's got rainbows in her hair. So at least there was still some sort of variation to encourage collectors to get all the different, because you wanted that variation of the pony. Whereas G5, there have been so many releases that are just exactly the same, like literally identical ponies. You would not be able to tell. And if you are a kid, or if you're a parent buying for a child, why would you keep getting your kid the same pony over and over again? Why would I want Sunny and then another Sunny and then another Sunny, but oh look, this one's got an ice cream with it? Like, you're not going to do that. And as a collector, like, you would have to be so hardcore into collecting. And I'm sure there are people out there, and I'm definitely not one to judge about that, but to get every single release just because this one's got a blue ice cream and this one's got a pink ice cream, and I don't know why I keep talking about ice cream, but you get the picture. And like, let's be honest, I love My Little Pony. It's not the most difficult thing in the world to come up with new My Little Ponies. Like, you pick a body colour, you pick a hair colour, you pick a cutie mark, and then you give a pony a name that is associated with that. So, like, you pick a pony that has an orange body, you give it yellow and orange hair, you put a bee on its butt as a cutie mark, it's Honeybuzz. Green body, pink hair, Mints as cutie marks, you've got yourself a Minty, and she's going to be the most popular character ever. It's really not that complicated. And to add, just add more frustration to that for pony collectors, My Little Pony's been going for like 40 years now. There is such a back catalogue of different characters you could choose from. Like, you have 40 years of designs and names. So why not use some of them? You don't even have to design them. All you have to do is make them, Hasbro. So that's reason number 1. So the second point where I think G5 really falls down compared with other generations is, why are they not brushables? My Little Pony comes from the same concept as every single other doll, which is hair play. And ever since the 1980s, one of the main attractions of My Little Ponies has been that they're basically dolls for children like me who liked horses instead. And this idea has been so successful for Hasbro and has made them so much money and has now been copied so many times. So why are we stopping doing it? So most of the G5s have moulded on hair. And this is something that we hadn't really seen before. Like, we'd seen there's been like G4 and G3, like McDonald's, well, even back as far back as G2, the McDonald's ponies, and some other releases that have had moulded on hair. But G5, like most of the releases have moulded on hair. And the ones that do have a hair generally have such bad quality polypropylene that it is like, it just turns into a mess after a kid has played with it for a few times. So I really don't understand why Hasbro other than like cost saving. But then My Little Ponies have brushable hair. That's the thing. It's like, you look at the 80s commercials, it's like, you comb, you brush their hair. It's like, you're a My Little Pony mummy. That's what you do. You comb and brush their hair. You carry them around in your bike basket. So I think if G6 is going to succeed, it's really got to go back to that core principle of what is, like, sit the people down at Hasbro and go, right, what is a My Little Pony? What do you think of? You think of brushable mane and tail, obviously, like a real pony. So sort of carrying on with what we were discussing a minute ago, let's talk about toy quality Hasbro. Because when an official Hasbro toy looks like a knockoff, even to somebody like me, you have a problem, especially when those ponies are not priced the same as knockoffs. They are considerably more expensive, and people just aren't going to get the value for money. And let's just do an example of quality. So this is from not that long ago. Says 2015 on the hoof, but this is a Princess Cadence from the G4 My Little Pony line. Later on, I suppose. She's got nice enough quality hair. She's a fashion style pony. She looks nice enough. And then you compare her with G5 of the same scale, both fashion scale. And this gal just looks so much cheaper. Like, I know, oh look, she's got these big fluffy wings, but these wings like move around no end. You can see, look at the plastic. The plastic is this really horrible hard, like this is like soft, sort of squishy-ish plastic. There's no like clear like lines or molding lines or anything. Just look at that. Like, that is absolutely horrendous how cheap this looks and feels for not a cheap toy. I'll add how much it costs because I can't remember, but this was not a cheap toy. And also note the head body discoloration. This toy is only like 3 years old and it's already got that discoloration going on. Like, it just looks like a knockoff to me. This was one I picked up from a car boot because I don't buy them new, but if I did not know that this was a My Little Pony design, I would just think this was a knockoff. Like, I would not, this does not look like a My Little Pony at all to me. I will say she does have nice hair, but other than that, like, a little bit more effort Hasbro into making this slightly more expensive looking. For this, I think a good comparison to talk about is the Basic Fun reproductions. And it's important, like, one thing to also look at is if you compare the Basic Fun reproductions with the 1980s, when last time Hasbro tried to make 1980s reproductions in like 2019, they did not turn out very pretty. But the bottom line is that Basic Fun, they can't just be relying on adults collecting for nostalgic reasons for their entire success. They've been doing it for like, 6-7 years now, and they're continuing with new ponies every single year. But like the Basic Fun ponies are just so much better quality. Like, they look better, their hair is better. And think about, like, if you were a kid going into a toy store in 2025, instead of buying it off the internet, and you see the Basic Fun ponies, and there are so many different ponies. There's probably almost 100 at this point. There's so many different poses and colours and blah, 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 and you can pick out, oh, you like hair ribbons? Pick out bow tie. You like sweets? There's a sweet stuff over there. There's so many different ponies. And then imagine the G5 wall, and it's just 100 Sunnies looking back at you. Like, which one would you pick? Which one would you pick to gift to a child? I personally would be looking for a pony that probably reflects a bit of that kid's personality instead of like, oh god, it's another orange pony. And a big part of the toy quality is also the hair. Let's talk about polypropylene hair. It is not good. It disintegrates after about a decade. And this was used, it first came in a really big way in the major toy line in like 2017 when they did the reboot for the movie. And that hair is so horrible, and it's less than a decade old, and it is so disgusting. I do have a few of the My Little Pony the movie ones, but honestly, I try not to, mainly because of that hair, because it's impossible. It just turns into frizz. There's not much you can do about it. And from a toy perspective, like, you want so soft hair. You want really soft hair, like, for a kid's toy that's aimed, let's be honest, at girls. And one of the things, when we're talking about toy quality, I think, is that one of the special things about something like My Little Pony is being able to pass your pony collection on through the generations of children. So if you think G1 are now over 40 years old, and there are still so many of them around in such good condition, and they restore so well because they have this fabulous nylon hair. And the fact that so many are in good condition is a testament to how well they were actually made. There are a few issues with them, as obviously there's going to be with anything that's 40 years old. That's like a toy collectible and was played with as a toy, but they still, like, children could still play with them today. I probably wouldn't recommend it because of the older plastic, but they're still playable toys. Like, can you imagine what G5 ponies are going to look like in 40 years' time? It's not going to be a pretty sight, neither for like the later G4, but this is mainly about G5. For starters, they're probably not going to have any hair because the hair will be of such bad quality, although most of them have molded on hair anyway. But they're not gonna be the same sort of collectible, I don't think, in 40 years' time as G1s are now. Watch me eat my words, and you can replay this video in 40 years' time when everyone's going, oh my god, Sunny, oh, I wish I had a Sunny. So, and another thing that was so special about, especially G1, but they still did it in later generations, that was totally lacking in G5, was all of the little fun gimmicks that the ponies used to have. So if you think back to G1, you think of all the different poses and all the different gimmicks they had. There were sea ponies, there were Big Brother ponies, there were Happy Tails ponies, there were Twinkle-Eyed ponies, ballerina ponies, baby ponies. The list goes on and on. There were so many different gimmicks, and some of them were odd, like the Betty Bye eyes with the rusted eyes that have now, they weren't originally rusted, but they are now rusty, most of them. Some of them were just freaky, but at least they were trying, they were being innovative. Whereas G5, you not only have so many releases of the same character, but they don't have, and there's nothing to differentiate them. They're all the same. Like, and even the later generations, like if you look at G4 compared with G5, G4 is widely criticised for not having a lot of variety, which is true, but if you look, they still had things like they had the pearly ponies, they had the water cuties that they did, they had like glimmer wings ponies, and they also had a lot of different things with like tinsel in their hair, blah de blah, like we discussed earlier. But G5 really had none of that. So you could have literally 10 different Sunny sets, and the ponies would all be identical. Like the accessories would be different, but the ponies would be identical. And like, again, that's just stopping. Why would people want to buy 10 of the same pony going back to this point? And like, if it was a Sunny, but oh cool, that's Sunny's big brother or something, and it's got feathers on its legs, or I don't know, that Sunny wags its tail, like the Happy Tails ponies. That would at least be something else for people to get interested in instead of just being exactly the same over and over and over and over again. So this next one, I'm pretty sure is not a major contributor like some of the earlier things, but I still think it's worth putting up and mentioning, is like, why are there so many teeny tiny little accessories? Because as somebody, like, as a parent, the last thing you would want to do, I would think, if you're buying a new toy for your child, is lots of teeny tiny little plastic pieces that end up getting swallowed or getting stuck somewhere or getting eaten by the dog or just immediately getting lost. And Hasbro has this really bad thing of, just for the sake of putting on the packaging, like, this includes 30 accessories, they will put so many little teeny tiny accessories, and they're the same accessories in every single like playset most of the time, and that just seems pointless. Like, there just doesn't seem to be any reason for it. Like, if you're a really hardcore collector, you'll put them all in a baggie and you'll keep them all safe for the next however many years. But if you're a kid, that's all getting lost, that's all getting out the window. And that would actually, as a parent, that would put me off buying. If I saw that and saw all those little pieces, I'd be like, nope, not doing it, just not dealing with it, because I'm going to be hoovering them up later on. And we're going to finish off with another one that is definitely niche, but is also, I think, a valid point. Like, why are they made out of such hard plastic? So, isn't the point of My Little Pony, like, that they're meant to be cute and cuddly? And G5, honestly, they make pretty good weapons. Like, they hurt. If you get one thrown at you, they are going to hurt you. They're pretty sharp. And I'm pretty sure that's not Hasbro's intention. So if you look at the most successful generations, like G1, G3, they're all made out of plastic that is all pretty squishy, especially G1 is very squishy. And I don't really understand why G5 they've made them so hard, because as a kid I would not want to cuddle with a G5 pony because they don't have any hair and they're really, really hard. They hurt. Whereas, like, you get a lovely, big, cuddly G1. Like, again, it's just another one of those things where you just think, what was the design behind, what was the point of that? I do not understand what the point was, Hasbro. And with that, we have reached the end of the rant. But in all honesty, like in all seriousness, like Hasbro, I do hope that you are listening to this sort of collective feedback that most collectors are saying. I'm certainly not the first, and I certainly won't be the last. Like, this is a plea from the collector community. We know what we're talking about. We love your toys. Like, I want to buy the ponies. I want to buy all the ponies. I want like something like G1 or G3 where I can get loads of different ponies again. And there's clearly still a huge demand. Like, if you look at Basic Fun as like something that's majorly in retailers that is selling, and on a more collector scale, there's also like HQ G1C, which is the like high quality G1 reproductions. They're also very popular. So like there's obviously demand both in the collecting community and in the wider community. But there isn't demand for the way they're doing it, like in G5. The way that Hasbro has done G5 has not at all appealed to collectors or toy fans or children, I suppose, as well. I suppose they're probably something to do with toys, aren't they? But like a lot of G5 has just clearanced out, and you can't have this argument of we didn't have the TV show wasn't a success. Like, you don't need the TV show to sell toys. There are plenty of toy lines that don't have TV shows. You just need a good toy at the end of the day. Like, children have imaginations. They can think of the storylines for all their different ponies. Again, like, oh, this one's got strawberry cone on its butt. This one probably worked with cotton candy in the cafe then. Like, those kids will do that. So I really hope as well that Hasbro just step back, take a look at what has worked throughout the years. You've got 40 years of ponies to look at and work out. It's pretty clear to see what worked and what didn't work, and look at what made the previous generation so successful and learn from your mistakes, and do not make the mistake of a G5 again, because G5 did have plenty of potential and it was just completely wrecked by a bad toy line that just there was no appeal for people to buy it. So thank you for listening to my pony rant. And if you've got any other opinions about why you think G5 failed, or why you think G6 could be better, because like G6 is such a potential, it could be so much better, then let me know down in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe for future pony rants and other videos that are not so ranty.